I'm going to break convention. I want to have some thanks right at the start. And there's two individuals who really are the heroes of this movement of ours. One of whom is here today, and one of whom sadly can't be. And they are the founders of the two foundations who are working together today, FSTC and the Al-Furqan Foundation. So what I'd like us to do, please, is to say thank you in the usual way to Professor Al-Hassani and Sheikh Yaman. Because without their wisdom and their thought, all the proceedings which are going to be so important this morning would not have been possible. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you ever so much. But what I'd like to do is to introduce the three speakers to sit beside me, and then one after the other, they will give very significant keynote presentations to start our symposium off today. So thank you very much indeed. Professor Ihsanoglu, if you'd like to take the platform.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dear colleagues, Arabic and Islamic scientific heritage has been the subject of academic interest for decades. The first generation of Western scholars was mainly interested in what would be known as the golden age of Islamic civilization, which meant the first Abbasid period. The pioneers of these historical studies took interest in researching, studying, and publishing scientific manuscripts related to the illustrious figures of this golden age. The leading studies of Orientalists were emulated and carried on by generations from Arab and Muslim world. However, the main interest and intensive studies of these scholars were mainly related to the first centuries of Islamic history, up to the 12th and 13th century. Professor Sezgin, in his comprehensive study of Islamic science, Geschichte der Arabischen Schriftum, he concentrated on the scientific heritage of the first 4 or 5 centuries. Sezgin's only exception was on Ottoman geography and cartography. However, the Arabic and Islamic heritage was not limited to this period. Scholars, scientists, and their collaborators continued to produce works of importance through the following centuries. However, unfortunately, these works did not attract enough academic interest and were considered worthless. Whereas the 15th and 16th centuries, Islamic scientific heritage witnessed advancement in the field of astronomy, mathematics, geography, as well as other disciplines. Large observatories, one in Samarkand, the 15th century, one in Istanbul, the 16th century observatories, were centers of scientific advancement. This period, which witnessed the abundance of scientific works in Arabic, has also witnessed the rise of Persian and Turkish languages as vernacular and as scientific media. Meanwhile, this period was when the scientific growth in Europe led to what has been labeled as scientific revolution. Muslim scholars started to follow the results of the scientific progress in Europe as early as the 16th century. Therefore, there was a compelling reason for shedding light on the neglected period of 6 centuries. The method of conducting comprehensive and extensive research and documentation of various scientific disciplines and works was the Ottoman framework. Ottoman Empire, 1290 up to 1922, was founded as a small principality in the turn of the 14th century and gradually expanded, as you know. During 600 years long history, Ottoman science emerged and developed on the foundation of the scientific legacy and institutions of pre-Ottoman Seljuk period in Anatolian cities, and benefited from the activity of scholars who came from Egypt, Syria, Iran, and Central Asia, which were the most important scientific and cultural centers in the Muslim world. The 18 volumes of history of Islamic scientific literature that were prepared and published in the last 30 years revealed enormous amount of information about scientific activities in the 6th centuries. Now I would start to share with you some of these This is the map of the Ottoman Empire, where you see how it started from here around Bursa, a small principality, and then expanded. Here you have Taqi-Din's name, his date of death in Hijri Taqvim in the common calendar, and then his works will be mentioned in alphabetical order, and every copy of a manuscript will be assigned by a star. Here, for instance, you can see that this is his famous Jaridat al-Durar or Jaridat al-Kharita. It gives information about this book, his book, and then this is the incipit of the manuscript. And then here, every manuscript found is mentioned here by a star, and information about where the manuscript is located and description of the manuscript is given in full details. Here again, this is a bibliography at the end of the item. I'll give you another example. Take, for instance, Qadizadeh al-Rumi. This is his famous book, Sharh al-Mulakhas fi al-Hayat. Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Sharh al-Mulakhas fi al-Hayat of Sharmini. We located 305 copies. Beside the manuscripts, and they're all through different libraries of the world, including geographies which were not part of the Ottoman Empire, like Morocco, like Central Asia, Iran, and India. And we found that it was printed in the 19th century in India, in Istanbul, in Espa, and the book was still produced by copying, by istinsakh, after the end of the Ottoman Empire and the First World War and everything, in certain villages in Kurdistan, Iraq. They are still learning astronomy from Sharmini and Qadizadeh. So that is, now, when you look to authors, as I said, we have 4,897 authors which we know of their time where they lived and that time, and those we don't know, we could not establish. So you see that how it goes from the 14th century, the number of scholars increases from 100 to 250, 300, 400, and 1,400. When you look to the scientific disciplines, you see how it goes here by centuries, from the 14th century to the 20th century, and then astronomy, mathematics, etc. Number of scholars and percentage. So you see here in astronomy you have 674 scholars. Medicine is the highest, 1,464, and then comes mathematics, natural and applied sciences, etc. And this is Mawzu'at al-Ulum, means classifications of sciences. Geographical distributions of authors whose origins are known, because sometimes we don't know from where he comes. You see that scholars coming from Istanbul are 24%, from Anatolia 24%, from Egypt 11%, from Balkans 11%. Think of Balkans as it was no Islamic culture at all before the Ottomans. So now it is active part in producing scientific and cultural manuscripts, books, and it comes equal to a very old place, which is Egypt, 11. Syria is 11, North Africa, apart from Egypt, and it goes like that. Again, when you look at the distribution of places where authors flourish, apart from, we find that Istanbul is 1,900, Egypt 476, Anatolia 370, Syria 204, Balkans again 105, Iraq, Hijaz, Crimea, Mediterranean Sea, Azerbaijan, Central Asia, etc. Travel destinations of authors, when you look to where they travel, from where to, you find that travel in Anatolia is the highest. Then it comes you have the Balkans, Syria, Europe, Istanbul, Egypt, Hijaz, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, it's Najd, etc., India. When you look to the distribution of works by language, the Ottomans has this tradition of what they call, my father's generation called El-Sinai Selasa. El-Sinai Selasa, 3 languages, Turkish, Arabic, and Persian. Every Ottoman scholar would learn the 3. If he Turk or Arab or from Romania or non-Muslims, many of non-Muslims learn it besides Turkish, Arabic and Persian. And we have many examples. 2 weeks ago we were in Athens for Orthodoxy and Science, and I gave a paper on Orthodox Greek scholars who knew Arabic, knew Turkish, knew Persian. So here you find that when you look to books produced in El-Sinai Selasa, means Arabic, Turkish, Persian, and century-wise, according to disciplines, astronomy, to astrology, to medical sciences, etc., you'll find here a lot of information. I can't go to all these details because of the time constraint, but here, multilingual works in El-Sinai Selasa. In Arabic, you have books written in more than 1 language. So here you find how many in Arabic, Turkish, Persian, how many in Arabic, Turkish, Arabic, Persian, Turkish, Persian. This is, all according to the different disciplines. Multilingual works in languages other than Arabic, Turkish, Persian, other than El-Sinai Selasa. Here you have French, English, Turkish, French, German, and here you have the total number of books in French, German, Armenian, English, Latin, Italian, Urdu, etc. And this is books 20,042 copies located. Well, when we look to distribution of manuscripts whose copying dates are known to us, you'll find that the number of, here, 14th century, in astronomy, there is no single book copied. But when you come to the 15th century, you have 102, and then it goes up, until it comes to the 18th century. Number of copies is reduced because of the introduction of printing house. But still, even in the 20th century, only 2 decades in the 20th century, with the time Ottoman Empire, you have so many copies, copied by hand. You have 149 manuscript in astronomy copied, 126 in mathematics, 34 in geography, etc., etc. Studying how manuscripts were copied, and eliminates a lot of. I will give you some few examples if the chairman allows me. We have 588 manuscripts that we know where they were copied, when the copy and the mustansif said كتبه الفقير في مدينة كذا. 588. In Istanbul, 43%. In Anatolia, 26%. In Arab provinces, means Syria, Egypt, etc., 17%. In the Balkans, 7%. As I give one example of Sharh al-Mulakhas في الهيئة of Qadizadeh, we have 305 copies copied, not only in Ottoman geography, but in India, in Iran, Central Asia, and some of these copies are copied not only in big cities, in small towns, in villages. So that shows the extent where these manuscripts were taught. Actually, you don't copy manuscript just for the sake of copying it, because you want to learn astronomy or mathematics. And you see that from how, for instance, I will give you an example. In medicine, we have so many copies of medical texts. The ones used in teaching medicine, they were mainly produced before the Ottoman time, like Ibn Sina, Ibn Nafis, etc. So they were used, but later on, Ottoman physicians wrote textbooks. And you can see that some of these textbooks are copied in the Turkish-speaking part, which means Anatolia, Istanbul, Romania. Some of them were copied in Arabic-speaking ones, and some were copied in Central Asia and Iran. So it depends on the text and its author, etc. And I have here one very interesting example. Shifa al-Asqam, this is written by Haji Pasha. We have 77 copies. It's an Arabic book, and it was used in the teaching. We have a copy dated 1333 Hijrah, and this shows that the one who copied is from Kosovo. His name is Mehmet, and when you look to the other registers of what we call Qaid al-Tamalluk, who acquired these books, you find that this book was later on acquired. It was related to a physician in Mansouriya, Qarawun, in Bimarstan al-Mansuri, which built by Sultan Qarawun in Egypt. Haji Pasha, the author of this book, was trained in the 14th century in the Bimaristan of Qarawun, and here, after so many centuries, somebody came to Qarawun, Bimaristan, and copied the. So the width and the spread of this literature shows us that you see, this is this 18 volumes revealed a lot of information unknown to us. And of course, I didn't go to the details of the text. I can't go to 20,000 copies and explain them, but for sure we have progress until 16th century. It carried on. We are sure that afterwards there was certain decline due to financial, economic reasons, and fight between the Ottomans and the Habsburg and the Safavids at the same time, on two fronts. So the richness of the Ottoman Empire went down, and funds for scholars. But sometimes when you see that in the 17th century there is decline a little bit in the number of books authored, you find that the quality of books translated were higher. For instance, in geography, you can see when you go by century, you find that it's increasing from 14, 15, 16, and then when it comes to the 17th century, it's declined. At the same time, you find that bigger number of copies on geography were written. And more important, that major books from Latin, from European sources like Atlas Major of Johnson and other Atlas Minor, etc., of Mercator, were all translated to Turkish, and many other books on astronomy were translated from. So this is an overview of 30 years of work, which entitled many big number of colleagues, catalogers, and research assistants. I'm glad that this came to an end. Now I am working on 2 or 3 volumes summary of the whole thing, which I hope it will be published in English as well. Thank you for attention. Thank you.